Arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio, episode 216. Today we're joined by inker extraordinaire artist Mike DeCarlo, talking about his decades of work for Marvel, DC, Valiant, and more. We'll get into some of his more famous works and more. Stand by. We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all. And for those of you longtime listeners, thanks very much for tuning in today. If you are new to the show, welcome to Geek to Me Radio. I'm your host, James Enstall. We always try to bring you an interesting interview or two from the world of pop culture, focusing on TV, film, comics, and movies. Today, we're doing the world of comic books. And with that, let's go to our first guest. Right now, we're talking with renowned artist and inker Mike DeCarlo. So many different titles and things he's worked on that we'd spend the whole introduction just going over those if we tried. So we'll get to more of that later. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I just got my wife settled into bed. I think you know, or a fair amount of people know, I have a very disabled wife from a car accident, so it takes up a lot of my time. But I just got her settled, so I'm free to talk for a while. So fire away, sir.
All right.
Yours.
Perfect. So going back to your beginnings, you got involved, I think, very, very end of the 70s into the 80s with Dick Giordano pulled you in to work with him. DC Comics, you got cut your teeth in a lot of those early titles like Green Lantern and things like that. When you were growing up, did you ever envision a career in comics? Was that something on the radar for you?
I've had a love of drawing since I was probably 6 years old. By the time I was 9 or 10, I became obsessed with becoming as good an artist as I could become. By the late 70s, I had actually gotten professional work as a sports cartoonist in my hometown of New Haven, Connecticut back at the time. And I was also doing political cartoons for Penn State University. Then in 1979, I got word that Dick Giordano and Frank McLaughlin were holding an art workshop, a 6-week workshop in Stratford, Connecticut, which was not far from where I was living, about a 16 or 17-minute drive. So I did enroll. I guess there was about 24 people in the class. And I heard through the grapevine eventually that they were both looking to pick out, I guess, the person they felt had the most potential to become their assistant. Because a lot of people back then used assistants. I don't know how much now, but back then, certainly. So it turned out at the end that I was the quote-unquote chosen one. And I began working with Dick and Frank and by the summer of 79. And then by 1980, I became almost exclusively Giordano's right-hand guy. Backgrounds, and then moving to little figures, and then bigger figures, and finally, after about a year of that, in early '81, he said, I think it's time you come up to DC with me. I'll introduce you to Joe Orlando, who was the art director at the time. And this was in maybe March of '81. And I showed Joe my stuff. And I guess they were more looking for inkers at the time.
Mm.
So he said to me, very bluntly, but very wonderfully, he says, how many pages of inking do you think you can do in a month? That's how I was introduced to comics.
Huh.
I said, oh, I don't know. I just kind of top my head. I said 40, which I guess was about 2 books worth. And I think very soon after, within a week or two, I got my first assignment, which I think was a Brave and the Bold. And then I got a job here and there, and fairly soon I became a regular on Green Lantern with Joe Staton. And, moved around a lot from Teen Titans, Legion of Superheroes, and then I guess very late '85 or very, very early '86, I got onto Batman, and that started close to a 5-year run on what was Batman's probably most prolific selling period. The Death of Robin, the whole thing. The late '80s and very early '90s was the heyday of Batman as far as the marketplace. And I was fortunate enough to be part of that with Jim Aparo.
Yeah, that's when they had the Batman craze really kicked in, because you had the movie in '89 with Keaton, and then they brought back the '60s TV series back to syndication on the weekday afternoons, and a kind of Batman animated series kicked up. So that late '80s, early '90s was a great time to be tied to a Batman book or commodity of any kind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to conceive now when a really popular comic will sell 40,000. Back in the heyday of Batman, Aparo and myself, I'm giving myself much less credit for it, but, Batman was selling 420, 430, 450,000 copies a month.
Wow.
It was, it was quite prestigious to be on that book.
That's to me, that's what I think of as the dream team: is Jim Starlin on pencils. I'm sorry, in writing, Jim Aparo doing pencils, and you're inking. That was like the epitome of Batman for me. That's kind of when I started getting into the comics, and that's what I'll always think of as the top tier version of Batman.
Yes, unfortunately, I run into people who are around 45 or younger who tell me how they grew up reading reading the Batman comics that I've worked on. So, you get full-grown people with teenage children telling you how they loved your stuff when they were little kids. So, but that's all right. That's just part of getting older. So, and then, I think around '89, I also knew a few people at Marvel, and I was getting regular work on Conan, Thor, some Iron Man, odd issues of this or that, annual fill-ins, She-Hulk, all kinds of stuff. So I worked for Marvel for about 4 or 5 years too. And after that, I started to get, because I always loved animation stuff also.
Mm-hmm.
And DC was forming a very strong line of animation books. And for several years, I did, everything from Pinky and the Brain to Animaniacs, Scooby-Doo, Looney Tunes, Powerpuff Girls, all that stuff. I did that for years. And then towards the latter part of the 90s, DC decided that we could use you in special projects to, do some of our really finished marketable stuff. I guess they liked what I could do as far as, really finishing a project. So thus began a period of doing, covers for video games and T-shirts and toy covers and T-shirts and things like that. I did that for quite a while. I did a lot of their style guidebooks. And let's see, I'm rambling, but I guess you'd want to hear this.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I know you worked for Valiant Comics for a while because you did work on Harbinger and Magnus Robot Fighter and things like that as well. Were these simultaneous with Marvel, or was that after you're done with Marvel, or were you kind of had simultaneous projects with simultaneous companies going at the same time? We'll pause right there, come back and chat a bit more with Mike DeCarlo after this. Please stand by.
Holy cool listening. Hi, this is Burt Ward, Robin the Boy Wonder from the TV series Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me. Golly gee willikers, it's fantastic.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. Talking this hour with artist Mike DeCarlo, and we'd asked him about working on multiple projects with DC and Valiant almost simultaneously, what that was like.
Yeah, that was about the late days of maybe 92 to 96, something like that. And, I was doing work for Marvel at the same time. When you're not under a strict contract, which, after I left Batman, I wasn't under exclusive contracts. Whoever had some interesting work for me, I did. So yes, I did, probably at least two dozen or more books for Valiant in total. Then Jim Shooter started, his own company, I think in the mid-90s. I did some work for him then. And then my good old friend Bob Smith got me some work for Archie, which I did for a while. And then I contacted the people who were doing the Simpsons comic book, Bongo. And I only worked for them for about 15 years, doing the Simpsons every month.
And if I'm not mistaken, you have you share an Eisner Award, 2002 Eisner Award for your work on Bongo's Radioactive Man.
Yeah, I did. I think that was like 2002 or 3, something like that. Yeah. Finally, about 2017 or so, I said, enough's enough. I've been doing the monthly grind now for 36, 37 years. And I just stopped taking offers to do regular work for anybody. And I've been fortunate enough to just get in on projects for companies, book covers, commissions for people, birthday presents for people, family portraits. I mean, for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, I've kind of gotten to do what I always really wanted to do, which was start with a blank piece of paper, do the penciling, ink it myself, and then color it myself. So I haven't really done just inking for anybody in quite a long time. I pretty much, as I say, I start with a blank piece of paper now. And I'm actually, at my age, happier with my career than I've ever been. You know, after the initial joy and magic of working in comics as an inker, mostly, kind of wore down. You know, it became kind of just a job, and I guess I was good enough at it, so I always had work, and I supported my family with it. I had 4 children, and I supported them. But then, as my kids matured and moved away, and it was just me and my wife, I realized that, you know, as I was getting close to 60, that if I was ever going to start having some fun in my terms of having fun, it was now or never. So.
And you've mentioned before, I think I've seen in interviews, now that you're just doing private commissions, you're doing work for companies and things like that. You said you're busier now almost than you were when you were doing the monthly grind. So back when you were doing the comics, it got to become work, and that kind of like isn't what you wanted? It almost sounds like you've now come full circle where you're now back to that little kid doing it for the enjoyment of doing it, which is great.
Yeah, I'm kind of a psychotic numbskull in the sense that I probably work more hours now than I did 20 years ago. But it's different because, you know, you don't have an editor breathing down your neck, and you know, it's not, if it's not here by Monday, we're in trouble. You know,
yeah,
I don't have to deal with anymore. So, yeah, I'm still a 7-day-a-week nut, but it's a 7-day-a-week choice more now.
Yeah, it's on your terms, so that's nice.
Yeah, so I don't know how much longer I can keep up this pace, but you know, there are guys older than me who are still very active, so you know.
And hopefully conventions will start back up, because I know obviously with the pandemic in 2020 and now we're in the 16th month of 2020, conventions haven't been going on, but hopefully we'll get back to those, because that's actually where I first met you. Eric Myers, who owned STL Comics, brought you here to St. Louis and is able to get you to sign my A Lonely Place of Dying promo poster and had a nice conversation with you. So that's I'm not sure if that's something that's also just something you're looking forward to doing again, or you kind of also kind of not really interested in the convention scene anymore at this point?
Well, what was going on then is my wife was in a nursing home. And I was able to do 2 or 3 conventions a month because she was, you know, still being fed by tubes and still needed that kind of care. She's home with me now. And I would still like to do shows, but I can't do, you know, 20 shows a year anymore.
Sure.
But I used to. But, you know, there are a few shows that I kind of have a special place for. And I would always like to be able to fit them in. And I do miss it. The pandemic, I know has hit people harder than it has me, because I've been able to to continue working, luckily. But I do miss the socialness
Yeah.
of the shows, seeing fellow artists and writers and, all the people who run the shows. And I got to make some pretty good friends over a couple of years there. And people I met once, 2 years ago, and I'm still talking to them, on Facebook or whatever. So,
and that's got to be a great feeling for you, because your art has resonated with people where they're wanting to keep in contact with you and things like that. You've been part of a lot of great storylines, like you mentioned. Just on Batman alone, 10 Nights of the Beast, Death in the Family, Lonely Place of Dying. You did the Judas Contract, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Honestly, one of my guilty pleasures, I loved Atari Force. So that was another one. I've got that full run of those books. But just the fact that's got to be such a rewarding feeling that your art, the stuff you've done, has touched so many people that they're wanting to come up and meet you and keep in contact with you. That's again, got to be a great feeling. We'll pause right there, take our next break, come back and chat more with artist Mike DeCarlo. Please stand by.
Hey, this is Yuri Lowenthal, but you may know me recently as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. And you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. Want to make sure we talk about our premier sponsor, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, and of course, the website discoverstcharles.com. If you've been a listener to the show, you know I've worked with the City of St. Charles for a long time, and they were the first sponsor to come on when I went out and sought sponsors for the show, and they immediately said, yes, we're in, we'll help, and they've been with me ever since. If you go to the website, you can see all the different things there are to see and do in St. Charles, and there's a lot to see and do. The weather is turning nice again. We're almost there in the springtime, and there's hopefully that end of the pandemic coming to a close here, the light at the end of the tunnel with people getting vaccinated and everything like that. So now's a good time to get out and start enjoying the outdoors again, have fun. And there's no better place than the City of St. Charles, whether you're bike riding the Katy Trail, playing in Frontier Park, just out looking around the historical landmarks, or sitting on the patio at some place like Salt and Smoke having lunch. A good time is had by all in St. Charles. Check out the website to plan your trip. If you're not in the greater St. Louis area and you want to come in from out of town, plenty of places to stay when you do so. You can always go to the website to plan your trip. Check out what there is to see and do. DiscoverStCharles.com. That's DiscoverStCharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Before we took that last break, we were chatting with artist Mike DeCarlo. Asked him about doing these conventions and meeting the fans.
Well, I tell you, I have a certain attitude that I think, I use the word fans loosely, that I think it makes them comfortable is, I don't really have an ego as far as what I do. I mean, I'm grateful I have whatever ability I have, and I'm glad I've been able to help make people happy with what I've done. But I think when people meet me, they understand that I'm very approachable. I don't have any kind of attitude. I'm just like everybody else. And, I was fortunate enough to be in a field where it attracts people with passion. It's something they're very much into. Just as I was as a kid, picking up the newest Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko comic book, I wish there were conventions back then. My goodness.
No kidding, yeah.
Stuff like that. But, I do miss it. I imagine when we get this herd immunity finally settled sometime in the next, whatever it's going to be, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, maybe people will start feeling comfortable with shows and attendance and stuff like that. So I'm not going anywhere, to use a cliche. When they start, I will. I'd like to go to a few again. I miss them, you know.
Yeah.
I always had time.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the show before, that's one of the biggest things. I used to do about 6 conventions or so a year to cover them and get to meet people and talk to some of these celebrities and artists and everything. And it's one of the biggest things I've missed. Especially it'd be great to go to a show where like you're sitting next to Joe Staton and you can like get 2 signatures on one book that you guys have worked on stuff before. Well, as an inker, when you're doing work with different artists, do you ever find it easier to ink certain artists' work versus another, or is it just pretty much the same? Like if you're inking George Pérez versus Keith Giffen or something like that, or is it just it's the same process for you no matter which artist you're doing it with?
No, it's kind of a mind meld with everyone. I found people like Kurt Swan and Gene Colan to be very difficult to ink because their pencils were very subtle. They shaded them. They shaded their work like fine art, and it was up to you to really, really interpret it. And then there were people like Joe Staton or Mike Zeck or people like that who, you just had to, I'm not saying trace, but I mean, it was there. And as long as you knew the fundamentals of art, you didn't have to worry about interpreting anything. It was all there. With George Pérez, it was just a matter of stamina.
I'll bet.
Because each panel was, a challenge. It was all there. I mean, you didn't have to fool around with it, but my goodness, patience. But yeah, no, I got to work with just about everybody from Don Heck to Steve Ditko to, Ross Andrew, Gil Kane. I guess about the only guy I never inked was Jack Kirby, unfortunately. But pretty much any of the people from the 60s on, I got to work with at least once or twice. And Steve Ditko was interesting to ink. I don't know how to explain it, but I think he was so used to doing his own finished product that to just do it in pencil and leave it to somebody else was kind of odd. It required you to put a lot of yourself into it, and I wasn't overly comfortable because, this is Steve Ditko, and I don't want it to look like Mike DeCarlo. I wanted to make it look like Steve Ditko, but I'm not Steve Ditko.
Right.
So, that was a challenge. I think I did 2 or 3 of his stories.
You've worked with, like you said, so many great artists and obviously writers who wrote these pieces as well. Character-wise, you've worked extensively. I mean, you've had an amazing career. We mentioned just some of the people we mentioned, between Green Lantern, the Titans, Thor, Conan, NFL Super Pro, which is another guilty pleasure of mine. I actually love that book. I've got the whole series and the graphic novel. Was there ever a character you didn't get to work on that you wish you had been able to while you were at any of the companies? We'll take another quick break. Come back and talk more with artist Mike DeCarlo. Please stand by.
You'll behold in breathless wonder the God of thunder, mighty Thor.
Hi, this is Will Friedle. You might have heard my voice as Lion-O from Thundercats, Ron Stoppable, or Batman Beyond, and you are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. If you are anything like me, you missed the movies more than just about anything else during this pandemic, and luckily they're coming back. Marcus Theaters and Movie Tavern, making it safe to go back to the movies. You can go to the website marcustheaters.com to see what is playing, find the location of the Marcus Theaters or Movie Tavern closest to you, buy your tickets online. You can even download the app to your iPhone. That way you can order your concessions, and they'll be hot and ready for you if you're getting the popcorn and or the pretzels or nachos or something, and you can pick them up for a more contactless delivery experience while you're there. It's a great time. And what they got now are these private cinemas. You can rent a private cinema, 20 of your friends. You sit in your own private cinema, maybe your circle that you were hanging with during quarantine. You kind of want to get out and experience movies again. That's a great way to say, hey, guys, we're coming to the end. Let's all get together and see a movie. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. Check it out. You can get pricing right there. Check out the shows you want to see, reviews of movies, and more. MarcusTheaters.com. Before we take that last break, we were chatting with Mike DeCarlo, and we asked if there's any characters during his career he wished he could have worked on.
No, I think I did at least one story of just about everybody I've ever wanted to work on between both companies. Even a couple of Spider-Man short stories and stuff. I did a full issue of the Fantastic Four, plus a couple of annual fill-ins. And of course, Thor, Iron Man, anybody from DC who I would have wanted to. No, I can't. The only thing I sometimes regret, and I actually express it once in a while on Facebook, is that I had developed certain abilities at an earlier age than I now, because I would have liked to have penciled some work, but I don't hold grudges or anything, because 30 or 35 years ago, I wasn't able to compete with the better pencilers. So I can't say, I was this brilliant talent in penciling and they ignored me. No, I wasn't ready. I wish in certain ways that I had been ready at a much earlier time to pencil. But it is what it is, and it was what it was, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. As I say, I'm doing what I want to do now, so it's better than never having.
This is true. Absolutely. And I just got one of your commissioned pieces, a Thing versus Hulk page that you did, and I just got that recently, and I'm still waiting to get it framed so I can hang it up, because it's absolutely wonderful. I love your work.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I have a lot of the real fundamentals from the classics drilled into me. I worked with guys who studied with the masters, and to this day, I'm 64. I still pull out all the great artists from the past, and it's hard to believe I still study every day in my life to try to be as good as some of the people I admire. I just don't think there's any limit to how good you can become. I try to become a better artist tomorrow than I was today, and
yeah, that constant striving for perfection. That's what we all should be doing anyway. We should always be kind of reaching a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an athlete, obviously there comes a point where you're just not going to be able to do it anymore. But as an artist, as long as you keep the edge and are willing to learn and to study and to experiment and to try something and to keep an open mind, there's no reason why. I mean, I think at 64, I'm doing better work than I've done in my life, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody would tell me I'm full of it, but that's how I feel.
And we should mention, too, if you're listening to this right now, MikeDeCarloArt.com. We'll put a link in the show notes if you want to see some of the stuff he's got up there, or if you want to get a commissioned piece for him. Because if someone reaches out to you and says, "Hey, it's my kid's birthday, I'd like a picture of Wolverine fighting Hulk," that's something you'll do commissioned pieces still and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I tell people, I'm really, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm happy to draw anything. I mean, I've drawn people's dogs for them. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I just like to draw. I mean, whether it's the Hulk or the Powerpuff Girls or, it doesn't really matter to me. It's just the joy of sitting down with a piece of paper. So I'm not a snob who refused to draw something. I do insist on getting paid. That's
of course.
That's not the only rule I have is that you're paying when I draw something for you. So anyway.
And just one last question before I let you go, because I know you've got a lot going on. Obviously, we talked about earlier, you're probably best known for the stuff you had that great run on Batman. Is Batman the one you still get the most requests for? And is there ever a point where you're kind of tired of drawing Batman? And we'll take our last break, come back, and chat for the rest of the time with Mike DeCarlo. Please stand by.
Johnny is making on the toy. The thing just loves to fight. More for more.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. Want to make sure that you check out our website, geektomeradio.com. It's been renovated just a little over a month ago, I guess, but we put a lot of bells and whistles on there. I'm very, very thrilled with how it came out and looked. Huge thanks to Jeff Shelton for reworking the entire thing from the grounds up. And it's beautiful. I'm very proud to show it off to you all. So go check it out, geektomeradio.com. You can check out links to our past interviews. There's social media contacts for us there as well. Other things going on if you want to check out that. And we, of course, always recommend if you click the Amazon affiliate link that's there on the website. It's a way for you to support us. If you're going to shop on Amazon anyway, click through from Geek to Me Radio first, hit that link, and basically you shop as you normally would. Nothing changes for you. But whether you're buying toasters or Funko Pops or Pop-Tarts for the toaster that you're about to get, who knows what you're getting, we get a very small percentage of that sale for ourselves, and it helps to support the show, and that's a great way for you to support the show as well. Make sure you're also following us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. That's facebook.com/GeekToMeRadio, Twitter and Instagram at Geek to Me Radio. We appreciate your following us there and supporting us. And, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and that just look up Geek to Me Radio on YouTube. We do our live radio events also streaming on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube, so make sure you subscribe to those channels as well. We're going to get back to our guest here. Right before we left, we were talking with Mike DeCarlo, and we asked him, does he ever get tired of drawing Batman? And he kind of had a lot to say.
Well, I shouldn't say this because it's usually good money, but if I have to draw that panel, that splash where Batman is holding the dead Robin again, if I have to draw that again, I'm going to blow my brains out. I think I've drawn that at least 20 times for people. I just did another one the other day. I mean, bless him, Jim has passed, so he can't do it. So I guess they go to the next person on the list, which is me. So yeah, I think I could use a year or two off from recreating that scene, but
see, I would almost ask to go the opposite route. I would ask for you to do that panel that they were going to use if enough people called the toll-free number and said we want Robin to live, where he actually his eyes when he says he's alive. That's the one I'd want you to do, because that's something not everyone sees.
I just recreated that in last.
So it's about equal amounts of those then, yeah?
Well, hey, it's a piece of history. I understand, and like I said, I'm the last surviving member of that two-man group, so I understand that people, it's valuable to people, and I'm kind of joking about it. I mean, if somebody wants it, I'll do it. I think I could do it blindfolded.
I'd probably so. It's just muscle memory now. Well, this has been it's been great to talk to you, because, like I said, you're one of those people. I've seen you at the con here in St. Louis. I felt like we only got to talk for a minute because you had a line of people who were wanting stuff signed and everything. But it's always great when I can do this and sit down and talk to somebody who's literally a legend when it comes to their work in the industry. Once again, MikeDeCarloArt.com. You can go to the website and browse everything there. You're not on social media other than Facebook, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you go on my Facebook page and you just spend a few minutes, browsing down the page, you can see a lot of my artwork. I've got it set up to do other things with my artwork, but it just seems like I never have a second. I would like to make myself available in other venues or in other capacities, but it just seems like I get up and the next thing I know, it's time to go to bed. It's kind of a hectic lifestyle, so to try to fit new things in is not so easy for me.
Sure.
But, like I say, I'm easy enough to get a hold of. I believe my email is either on my website or on Facebook. And as I say, I'm not shy. If you want a drawing of your cat, I don't mind. I'll do anything. It doesn't matter as long as it's drawing. So it has been very nice to speak to you.
You as well, definitely.
Hopefully, and not too much longer, we'll have this nightmare of a period in society kind of come maybe not to a complete end, but to a point where we can all start interacting a little more comfortably again, because I miss it. I'm sure everybody does. So
definitely.
It would be nice to be social again. So to you and anybody who's going to listen to this, I wish you all health and well-being, and contact me or get a hold of me if you'd like a drawing. I'm happy to do it. And it was great to speak to you.
You too. Thanks so much for your time, and have a great rest of the week.
You too. Thank you very much.
And that's going to do it for us. Another show in the books. Huge thanks to Mike DeCarlo. A blast talking to him. One of the best in the business when it comes to art and inking. Thank you for following us, subscribing, and tuning in each week. And until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch a zombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, DC Comics. Good night. This is James Enstall, host of Geek to Me Radio, and I have a mission for you.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
The next time you want to buy something from Amazon, go to geektomeradio.com first and click our Amazon affiliate link. Simply shop like you normally would, and when you check out, a small percentage will go to supporting the show. So remember, the next time you want to search Amazon for the latest Game of Thrones Blu-ray or Sonic screwdriver, click through from geektomeradio.com first.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.